Greatness. Greatness. Greatness.
What's up, YouTube? On this show, we talk about gratitude. How do we apply gratitude in the midst of our struggle? So make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell. Also, make sure you hop into the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, any questions you got in regards to this show. So check it out. Welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Sanchez. Joined with me, as always, my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing. Like back in the day when I married my wife 31 years ago, I got gratitude for her. And here's my ring kiss from my baby girl.
Oh, there's the ring kiss. No ring, and a different quote for the baby girl.
The baby girl.
AKA my mom, which is awkward to say out loud. Auntie Cal's in the building. What's up, Cal?
What up, Callie?
Cal is tearing it up on the 2 times to climb, her little post she made while working out.
Good.
Sweet. So today we're talking about gratitude, what that looks like, how we apply that. We're going to define it, talk about why, how, what it is. And if you follow us on social media, which hopefully you do because you're in here, we put the tagline gratitude, how to use gratitude for strength within the struggle. So that's kind of the tagline for today's show. I'll say it again, how to use gratitude for strength within the struggle. And so take a moment, Dad, define it, what it is, why, and then we'll hop into some examples.
So let's take a peek back to one of our motivation shows. And if you go backwards and you take a look at that real quick, I'll just remind you, when you think about faith like a child, there's 3 things that determine whether or not you're going to make a second attempt on anything in life. 3 things. Number 1, it's novel or it's brand new, right? It's shiny. Number 2, it sparks curiosity. So a lot of times people be like, I might try anything once, like that kind of thing. So it's curious. The third one is it brings pleasure, or for what we're talking about tonight, I've had success there before. Pleasure, success, growth. It was fun, pleasure. So remember those 3 things. It's new, it's curiosity, and it brings pleasure, or I had success before. Think about like first time you try sushi and you're like, I tried that. It's a no-go, right? Or if you had like a California roll and you're like, that was okay. I had to put a lot of mustard and soy sauce, but it was okay. That's going to dictate whether you try it again. So as we move into gratitude and we talk about using gratitude in the middle of the struggle, your quick thought really quick is if I try something and it starts to go south on me and I start to bail, the final thing I want you to do is pause. Even if you quit a workout, like you're going to go 20 minutes, at 12, you decide like I'm cramping, I can't do it. We're okay with that. That's the whole idea of like within the struggle. But before you leave, stop, take a deep breath, look back and go like, okay, where's the gratitude in there? What can I be thankful for? And you're like, hey, I went harder than I've ever went for those 12 minutes. That's the key that then goes back to our rehearsal loop, right? Remember last time we talked about the loop, the cue, the craving, the response, and then the reward. So now your final reward is like, okay, I'm proud of those 12 minutes. Let's go. Do a post like I went harder than I ever went before on 12 minutes. You don't have to like overdo the, hey, I failed at 20, right? The most important piece is find that gratitude. At Renewing the Mind Clinic, our podcast, we call that the what moment. What's awesome about that? Find that in the middle of that struggle so we can close the loop on a positive. So that's what I want you to hang on to as we jump in here. All right, gratitude. Just walking through this tonight, Tyler's like, what would gratitude look like? And I smiled. And then we thought about it later and we're like, man, it might be a prayer stance because it's more thankfulness. So here's the definition.
Yep.
A quality of being thankful. The quality of being thankful. So I'm not going to define thankful. I think everybody gets that. But think about this for a second. The quality is like your standard, like quality control. So like if you make coffee at home, this is Stacy, by the way, she's got her coffee down here at home, like literally the water, the coffee, like how much, the brew, it's cool. She's got it. And we go anywhere and she's like, she'll taste it and she'll look at me real quick. She's like, that's not as good as mine. So like Stacy's standard is her own coffee. Okay. So anywhere else in life, she compares it to that. Now, if we go back to gratitude, the quality of being, that's a state, being thankful. So think about this for a minute. If I am grateful, if I have gratitude, that means I compare everything in my life against the standard of being grateful, of being thankful. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing. So your standard of being thankful and the degree of excellence. So at Renewing My Podcast, I always talk to our team here and I say, remember, our standard is excellence. Like, if you try your best to reach excellence, I'll hug you all day. If you tell me you can't, you're doing push-ups. So it's the quality of like reaching that standard. It's the quality of reaching for excellence. And once you train your brain to find it, it literally becomes your habit. It's who you are. And we all like those positive people because they're really attractive. Their energy is contagious. And so I want you to focus this on not just like a statement like, oh yeah, well, it was good. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about developing a quality standard for you. That's your baseline. And everything else in life then goes against that baseline as a comparative. Okay. So that's the what. Now, I want to ask you a question. Why is this important? Okay. So the APA, American Psych Association, did a survey, post-inauguration survey 2021. So literally 2 weeks ago. And they surveyed, I don't remember the number, honestly, as I don't want to misstate that, but 1,000 people or more, whatever it was. And they found out that 84% are overwhelmed by negative emotions. And the negative emotions that they termed is prolonged, unrelenting feeling of stress. Prolonged, unrelenting, like it's something you can't get away from. And for most, their standard is high stress. So everywhere they go is high stress, and they compare it to high stress. So like, hey, how was that? Like, it was still a little stressful. Do you see what I'm saying? So like it's high stress, like crazy stress, or like, it was still stressful. That's not the way you do it, because their eyes are gravitating towards stress and they're attracted to stress, and that's their standard. That's not what we want to be. So here's how that broke down. Out of the 84% of people, that's more than 8 out of 10. Think about that. Okay. Anger was their top issue, 39%. Sadness was their top issue, 44%. And then anxiousness, a general anxiousness, 47%. So that's a lot of people. More than 8 out of 10 people are walking around chronically angry, chronically sad, or chronically anxious. And this is why gratitude is so important. If you can train your brain, if you train your mind to find gratitude in the middle of a struggle, what can break you? Nothing. Something might derail you, but it's not going to break you. Now, when we talk about winning, everyone talks about reaching your goal. Like, winning isn't a finish line. Winning is beating your yesterday. Winning is like pushing yourself. Like Tyler said, like, we're so competitive as a family. Like, he wasn't just going to jog and be like, hey, it's my first day back in like 6 years. He's just going to push himself. And then if he's got cramps in his toes, he'll like have, Stella come jump on it or something. Right. So he'll pay later. Okay.
Yep.
So that's the definition of the winning, is like not actually a finish line, not actually like some jackpot. It's like, dude, I killed 12 minutes today. That's all you got to say. Somebody else close to like, oh, you did a 12-minute workout. Well, technically it was 20, but I'm just focusing on the 12. That's how we do it.
Well,
and
a lot of things, and a lot of things in those, you set the win.
Correct.
Like on the standard of what you're trying to achieve and trying to accomplish, you set the win.
Correct.
And you do that in everything. We do that in our youth ministry. What do we consider a win? You do that in your morning workouts. What do you consider a win? And what I consider a win and what you consider a win might be two separate things.
Correct.
Right.
And that's exactly it. So this is what we talk about, you versus you, right? So you set your win. Now let's talk about this. So that's the why, right? We want to train our brain to catch and pick up gratitude, so I'm not chronically anxious, sad, or angry. Now, the happy people aren't necessarily happy, because we know happiness is a state. It's not a thing. It's a state. So like you move into cold, you move into hot, it's a state. So happiness is a state. But happy people are designated happy because they take control over their emotions more often than not. That's the key. Can you control your emotions? I don't know if I can control it, but I can convince my mind that I'm okay in the storm. See the difference? I don't have to control the feeling. I have to control my mind that I'm okay right now. Okay. Work can still be chaotic. Like, something broke and leaked through the house. Like, it still can happen, but I can control my mind. Like, you know what? I've seen worse days and I made it through those. So this isn't going to be that big of a deal. And so that's what I want you to think about, because controlling your emotions, listen carefully, controlling your emotions controls your energy. And if you control your energy, you're not bleeding out energy, yelling at this, stressed about that, all over the place, and feeling chronically exhausted. And literally, some of those people do nothing all day, but they're completely beat down and exhausted. Why? Because their energy bleeds out all over the place. So the Navy SEALs have a saying that I absolutely love, and I say it all the time. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to people because they think I want to go like beat up somebody, but they say you are never out of the fight. The Navy SEALs say you are never out of the fight. Like there's still fight in you, like fight. There's still stuff in you, like go. Like I would tell you to keep climbing, and y'all get that, right? Okay. The how. Here's the how.
All right, hold on. Let's pause there for a sec.
Okay.
Before you get into the how.
Sorry,
So
dude, I'm getting all jacked. Let's go.
Yeah, you're flying through this. All right. So couple of things I jotted down. So when you look up for quality, let's just go back to that real quick. That's kind of the standard. So let's just slowly walk through that a little bit more. So that's the standard that you set. So when you were talking, I just Googled real quick the definition of being, which is defined as existence or the natural state of a person. And so what we talk about all the time is what's your natural default mode. And so some people go, dude, that's not naturally me. But the quality or the standard of your natural existence, you set that. So even if you're not inclined to that, which some people are and some people aren't, you can choose what your standard is.
Yes.
Just like you said. And so you change your thoughts to see gratitude in situations that you naturally might not. And you can't just chalk it up to, dude, that's just not how my mind works. That's
or
the
people
whole
just say
point
that's not who I
renewing
am.
the mind.
Correct.
Yeah, that's not who I am. That's
not who I am. I don't do that. That's
renewing the mind. You
Correct.
renew your thoughts. So if that is not your standard of existence or the natural state of your being, change that.
Correct.
And
yes.
that's what we're trying to get across in
let's pause right there. I want y'all to Google epigenetics, EPI genetics, epigenetics. And it's basically the science of changing your genetic manifestation. So you have genes, and the genes manifest into a certain state. You can actually program your genes to change their state, how they manifest to people, how they manifest in the middle of a storm over repeated trials. If you don't know anything about us, we talk about habit, repetition, 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 repetition. Now, I learned this just stubborn, hard way. I have dyslexia. I had to read stuff over and over and over. I had to rehearse my notes over and over and over. I had to do words and definitions at the back of the book. Then I'd rewrite them and rewrite them and rewrite them probably like 10 times. And then when I would dominate the test, everyone's like, dude, you're really smart. And I'd be like, okay. And so I never thought I was smart because I had to practice so much. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But here's the thing, like Jordan is the bomb because he practiced more than anyone in the world. Like that dude practiced 3 times a day and he only needed to practice once to be amazing, but he wanted to set the global standard. Okay. So holler at me if you don't think Mike's the best player ever existed, but I'm just saying. Okay. So rehearsal, right? I know that's debatable, but not in my book. Like, you know, the standard is like you talk about basketball shoes. You're like, bro, I need new Jordans. Like, come at me, bro.
I do need some new Jordans. If you're in the
exactly
some b-ball shoes, my stuff is crested.
Period. End of discussion.
The other thing I thought about is, you know, disappointment or failure comes from time to time when our expectation and our reality don't line up. And this happens with my kids all the time. You know, Stella thinks one thing should be a certain way. And when her expectation and the reality don't match up, I try to teach students this all the time too, is like when you go to McDonald's and you pay $1.25 for a double cheeseburger and you get that cheeseburger, you're satisfied because your expectation is that you paid $1.25 and you're going to get a $1.25 cheeseburger. You go to Red Robin, you expected the burger to look differently. So if I pay $12 and they put a double cheeseburger on my plate, my expectation and the reality are not the exact same thing. But if I go to McDonald's knowing I'm going to get a McDonald's burger, I'm okay with that. Same thing. I go to get a cone or, you know, something simple like that. You go expecting. And so sometimes that happens in our life with disappointment. We set that standard, just like we said to start the show. We set the win.
Correct.
So when we set a win that's too high or too lofty or out of our reach or not even close in comparison, then our expectation is here, our reality is here. That's something I run into. I'm like,
Correct.
okay, I dieted for a week. My expectation is I'm down 35 pounds. Reality is I lost 4. Then I go, my expectations, my reality, now I'm disappointed. But if I
Correct.
went into that week saying I'm gonna diet and lose 2 pounds and then I lost 4, now I'm excited because my expectation and my reality. So sometimes it's just about changing your expectation and or what you consider a win.
Yeah. So in that exact, okay, so you go in with high expectation and you trip and fall, miss it. You circle back like I only lost 2 pounds this week. My goal was to lose 4. We would talk about baby steps first, right? But let's say you didn't know that. So you set a high goal, 4 pounds a week. That's a big goal, and you fall short and you get 2. This is what this podcast is.
Right.
What this podcast is
That's what
about.
gratitude does now.
You find gratitude in the middle
Yep.
of that storm. So you're like, oh, dude, I suck, blah, blah, blah. I hate it. Like, I'm not doing this no more. And that's exactly what we don't want, because you just did a negative rehearsal loop. And in that moment, you reinforce the idea that I'm a quitter. You also reinforce the idea that I failed. You also reinforce the idea that I shut it down. Like, it's over. Like, there's no more funding for that project. It's gone. That
Yep.
disappeared. Okay. Now listen, this is really cool, but somebody talked to me, and it's really cool. It's just really super cool. Like, somebody said, hey, I thought of you the other day because I was doing something and I was opening up a package, and I stopped and I thought for myself real quick. And I thought, wait, is this a habit I want to reinforce? I was like, let's go. Let's go. Because the awareness is there, right? You don't know what you don't know, but once you know, you can't unknow, right? Then you stop the negative loop and instantly start to build a more positive loop. And the reason that stopped in there is because there's a little bit of gratitude. Like, wait, is there a little bit, wait, do I want to do this? And there's a little bit of self-love. Like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't deserve that line. I'm stopping. I'm different. And I know this is so crazy to talk about, but in that moment, you literally changed genetic structure of how your brain is wired. You took a chemical wiring that just flies like A, B, C, D, E, and you went A, B, C, and it broke. So now there's a little, that's actually called sprouting, and there's a little neuron that started to sprout. And now you just started to make a baby trail. It's kind of hard to see, but over time, you reinforce that baby trail. So yes, expectations are the key, but if we miss it, have gratitude in the middle of that struggle.
Yeah, no, that's my point exactly. That's the point of the gratitude. Is when those don't line up. Now you say, like when I coach people, or when I walk people down the same journey I'm on, you say, okay, when's the last time you lost 2 pounds in a week?
Correct.
Well, not since 8 years. Okay, then we still got to win, right?
Right.
That's what you're talking about, is that gratitude.
That's 100%.
It's wild. So we didn't really talk. This week's just been crazy for both of us. So we didn't really talk about what we're talking about on the show until tonight when I got on like at 8:40. But so we always watch The Belonging Company on Tuesday nights, and for whatever reason, Stella and Eliza were exhausted tonight, just crying over everything. So we made them sit on the couch. I filmed the little video, put it on Instagram, and then I was going to try to take a picture of all of us chilling on the couch because everyone's just vegged out, just like this. And so I thought it was funny. So I pull my phone up, Stella's sitting right here. And I think the same time I was going to take my picture, Stella tried to get off the couch. So I just said, lean back real quick. And she said, no. And I said, lean back real quick. And she didn't see what I was doing, and I didn't see what she was doing. She was trying to go throw away her wrapper. And so she was trying to get off the couch. I was trying to keep her on the couch. She didn't know I was trying to take a picture. So she said, let me go. And so then I said, no, stay here. We're taking a picture. She just lost it, started crying. So I didn't know she was going to throw it away. So we talked it all out. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were going to do that. She said, I thought you were trying to be funny. I didn't want to be funny. So she's just bawling, right? Yeah. So then I say, okay, come back. Let's take a picture. And she literally said, and I quote, I cannot smile right now. She said, I can't smile right now. She's like,
she's sad.
Yeah, she's trying to wipe her tears. So I said, Stella, yes, you can. She literally went like this. No, see, I can't. No, see, it won't happen.
Yes.
And so I have a picture of her doing that. She's like this. And I'm like, Stella, you are in control of your smile.
Yes.
I said, who's making your lips smile? No, they won't work. They won't work. Who's telling your brain it won't work? So we went through this whole thing, and it's literally that her existence and her standard of being right in that moment was telling her self-talk that she can't do it because she was too sad. So we walked through this whole process, talked her to it, got to the point where she went like, a little half smile. So then mom said, or Alicia said, think of something funny. So then that got her to smile. So then I pulled her aside after she kind of calmed down, and I said, you control your emotions.
Correct.
She said, well, I'm not an adult like you. I can't do that. And so we had the whole conversation on you are your thoughts. You control that. You send your thoughts, then control your smile and, that emotions that she felt. I think sometimes maybe we don't say, I can't smile, but we say things like, there's no way I can be happy right now, or there's no way I can be satisfied right now, or there's no way I can go on, or there's no way I can not be stressful in these moments. We say those exact same things.
Facts.
Just
Yes.
on an adult level.
So, okay. Why do you think we say that as adults? Why do you think she said that as a kid? Why'd she get stuck?
Because it feels that way.
Yeah.
In all reality, it's back to that being, it's the natural existence of a person.
That's her program, right? So it's a black and white ABCD, and you're trying to get her to go ABC A1, and she couldn't do it. But it's also that expectation that sad faces or sad emotion makes sad faces. So she's in the middle of that process, and you're interrupting her habit loop. And so she's trying to go through ABC, dad, stop, like AB, and then after a while, Alicia just got her to think of something different, which then
I don't know. Alicia whispered something in her ear. I was probably like, "Daddy pooped his pants" or something.
Yeah.
If you're still watching, Alicia, type out what you whispered.
Yeah. No, because that's really cool. So now she had a different thought. So she just interrupted that loop. We're not doing with that loop anymore. She's in a completely different loop, and then that made her laugh. But here's what's really cool: if we keep doing stuff like that when she's sad, you make her laugh. What'll happen is she'll make a connection. There'll be a gap, a bridge between that, and she'll be able to do it. She'll be able to catch herself.
Here,
that's exactly why we teach kids to renew their minds, because as teenagers, especially, and I hate to say this, I mean, it doesn't mean like I'm sexist or something, but especially girls. And here's why. And if you know me personally, people know I talk about how women are more advanced. Like you're literally like human. We're 1.0, women are 2.0. Okay. So they're the second design of God, and their brains open up so early that they have so much stuff going on that they can't manage it. And we always just think as dudes, and we're taught as dudes, like girls are crazy, but it's not actually true. They're advanced.
Yep.
So we, as grown men, age, usually around age 29, when our brains are fully developed in the forehead, we start to think like a girl more. That's why we get more emotional. That's why we get butthurt when a dude doesn't invite us to a party. Think about this. Like
I thought it was when I had girls, but I turned 20. That's when I started crying for normal commercials.
Yeah, no, your brain's forehead's fully developed as a dude.
You crying?
Yeah.
No.
I started cuddling at 29. I'm like, what is wrong with me? You guys laugh because I put a blanket on.
Here, I'm gonna see if this will focus.
Whole other thing.
Look at this. Look at this. Can you hold on? Is that? Yeah, you can kind of see that.
Yeah. Her little smile. It's like a forced smile.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to her normal, like jubilant smile. Yeah. She's working on it. So, but okay, that's really good because she is reprogramming. So that back to your epigenetics. If you guys just for fun, I promise you, it'll be worth your time and investment if you can study epigenetics. Yep. Epigenetics is where I built Renewing the Mind Clinic. That's where we built, the resilient mind, the resilient, marriage, all those kind of things, because the ability to change takes time, but it has to be in the concept of awareness. So right now we're teaching you awareness on gratitude. And if you can have some of that, start to develop that, get in our 2 times the climb group, and you have a teammate who pushes that with you. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. So
hold on. Don't go. Preston Chase Fowler, the homie, said,
what up, Chase?
He said, it may be easier to make the excuse rather than having control of her emotions. That's exactly it.
That's correct.
It was easier for her just to sit there and cry than to fight against it and come back.
And the reason is because that habit loop's been reinforced, let's say 500 times, and coming back's been probably maybe 10 times.
Yep.
Right.
He also asked, he said, can you say that again, Dr. Sanchez? I don't know what he's talking about for you to say it again.
Sorry. What
epigenetics?
part?
Yeah. What part specifically?
Yeah.
Dan Olson also threw a comment up earlier when we were kind of really in the heat of it. He said, how am I supposed to be grateful for my job, even though I don't really enjoy it at all?
No, great question. Let's tackle that real quick. You know how many people right now are unemployed? You know how many people right now can't wait on a $600 stimulus check? Do you know how many people are in lines to get food? Like there's so much gratitude in there. Now, here's what I would say to you. If you find one positive thing about your ability in your work, that'll start to spark new ideas for you. So like you're at work and let's just say you're building boxes. Just say you're building boxes. So you're opening up boxes, you're putting them together, and then you're taping them, whatever. And you're like, I hate my job. This is stupid. I'm way more skilled than this. You know, I'm underpaid for this. I'm overqualified for this. What you're going to do is you're breaking up all these rehearsal loops of like why you're even there. Why would your brain do something that you're convincing it you shouldn't be doing? Right. So now your chemistry is fighting against your motive, which is I need this money. Now, instead, be like, okay, I'm a box builder for now. Right. But I want you to start thinking about this, but I'm going to open up my own company. I'm just not there yet. What if I had money to open my company? What would I do? What would I start? What would I launch first? And as you start to have vision, you start to have gratitude because the Lord will start to show you the pieces that are really inside of you that you've squashed because of your anger or your sadness or your anxiety.
Yep. And I know specifically
Great question.
Dan works for Little Caesars and in the managerial role. So the other thing I'd be thinking about is, less about making pizza in boxes and trying to form that light, that ministry aspect that you could have with your employees, with you being a boss, and how a godly boss in a stressful situation can shine light into a lot of younger people into their circumstances. We can all think back to the moments we've had godly bosses in our life and the impact that can have. So instead of just thinking about getting a pepperoni pizza out, man, you have the ability to speak into a lot of people's lives that just based on your tag or your authority in that, in that store, look up to you. And so that's what I would go from.
Yeah. And I would also say this, like back in the day when I worked at Fairway Foods building pallets, that's not what I was called to do. That's not what I wanted to do.
Shout out to the free cheese balls.
Yeah. I literally just fell into this idea that like, what if I use this as a workout? Cause you're so sweaty. You're not in your warehouse. It's 100 degrees, 95 degrees. And I just thought, cause sometimes I couldn't work out cause I had to work. Right. So I thought to myself, what if I use this as a workout? So literally I would jog up and down the aisles instead of walk, and I would build these pallets. Okay. And I just got a bonus check on accident. And I was like, hey, what is this for? I think you made a mistake. And they're like, no, if you beat your order time by 10%, you get a bonus. And so I was like, well, let's see how hard I can go. So I went hard, got $300 extra in a paycheck in like 1991, $300 on top of your paycheck, bro. I mean, come on. So then I started just going just crazy. And what's really crazy is I started to develop leadership skills because people are like, what do you do? How do you do it? How do you organize it? So I started just teaching a skill of like, here's what I do. I don't know if it works for you, but this works for me.
Yep.
And I promise you, like the psychology skills of managing people, pushing people, reading people, it started in a warehouse. I wasn't a psychologist. I was in athletic training. I was like taping ankles. So as you're a manager, Dan, I want you to focus on like, how can I build the people? Because the gratitude in building people, the Lord builds skills. He doesn't really care about titles. So you're in the business of building people, Dan. Just build people. That's where you're at. Okay.
Bridget said, yes, negative self-talk crushes us. Agreed. And then Chase commented and said the girl part. I think he was talking about when the women are 2.0 and the emotional.
Oh, got you.
So me and Chase both got 2 daughters. So
yeah. So
I think maybe.
So here's the idea, real quick. So people talk about left brain, right brain, but it's really just hemisphere. But it's just like 2 parts. So like men are kind of single threaded. So like if I have an idea, like I'm gonna play golf today, like I lose my brain, kind of like I don't worry about anything else. So I can't really parallel
nothing else. That's all that matters. The night before.
Like, I'll get a text then like, hey, to pick up diapers, and why don't you stop and pick up pizza? I already ordered it. Like, okay, sweet. So I go golfing, and then I get home because I'm looking at my scorecard and I'm like chatting to Tyler because I beat him again on the last hole, and I like play like once every other year. And then like I forget to pick up the pizza, and I get home and Stacy's mad at me, and I'm like, wait, what? It's like it ruins the whole day, right? Now women can multitask, and the reason they can multitask is because their brains communicate, their hemispheres communicate. You can Google this stuff; it's super fun. But there's a thing called the Corpus Callosum, and it's the middle of the brain that connects both hemispheres, left and right. Women's are twice as thick, twice as heavy, and they have twice as many neurons. Here's what it really means. If I go from a focused thought to an emotional thought, it takes a long time. If a woman goes from a focused thought to actually like an emotional thought, it's fast, lightning speed. So a woman can be both emotional and logical, but just one in front of the other, like A, B. We can either be either or. And so what happens is a woman can be logical reasoning and then move over to emotional and kind of cray cray. That's a man's talk for emotional. And then they come back and we're like, I don't even know what you're doing right now. And then we try to distance them and push them away because we don't understand them. And that makes them more mad. So you just lit a fire. Don't ever light a fire, bro. Like, no, we
Literally
diffuse.
Literally me and Stella tonight.
Yeah.
I
So
said,
what you
can smile, just do it. And then Alicia was like, stop, she's crying. What? I'm like, just do this. You know?
Yeah.
She
So,
wasn't having
okay.
it.
So let's use that example. So I would tell you this as a man, I would tell you this, whether it's your daughter who's, 5 or my daughter who's 11, who's going on like 16 or your wife. Okay. So in the middle of that, instead of trying to argue your case, because see, Tyler's logical forward, like just one thing, just one thing. And Stella can't because there's so many emotions because she's over in the emotional brain. So how you diffuse that is you can change the state. So you can crack a joke, you can fake a fart, and she'll be like, stop. And you'll start to see her try to do both. Or what I tend to do is I'm a hugger. So like, I'll just reach over and hug her. I'll just grab her. And so you just grab her and hug her like, hey, give me some lovin's. That's our language. Give me some lovin's. And then I'll say, so what happened? And then once you validate that emotion, oh, because blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. It's over. And then she'll wipe her tears and like, cause you validated her emotion. Yep. Once you like stamp it, like, yep, that's what it was. And then she can click back over.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that's really good. Good question.
Perfect.
Okay. So the how, right? Let's get to the how.
Yep.
Okay. So the how, you can rewire the brain through epigenetics. Okay. And what we've been teaching you is rehearsal loops. Okay. Rehearsal loops. So if you give yourself a gratitude statement, that's not just like, Raul, you're awesome. Like people try that doesn't work. You have to give yourself a gratitude statement every single morning or every single night. Some people prefer night. And you have to do it by recalling 3 real life gratitude moments in your life. Literally. Okay. So if you do that and you rehearse those every single morning, same time of the day, best you can, or every night before bed, same time, what you're really doing is you're reinforcing the channel of like love, affection, quality, thankfulness. And that becomes your last thing that you go to bed for, right? Or your first thing in the morning. And literally you prime your brain to look for it. And especially if you recall the real issue, that reinforces the neurochemistry of bonding, which is a love chemical, because you're like happy, you're love, you have gratitude. So that's how you start to do it. Now it takes 3 of them, and it takes 3 of them every single day for 21 days. So to be honest with you, that's part of the routine. Like I slip sometimes, I forget sometimes. I'm moving that around. So my morning routine's kind of up and down. But then sometimes I'm driving to the office and I'll just start just laughing because I'll be calling out things and laughing about it and saying it out loud to myself. So write it down, read it out loud, because when you hear it, you're looking at it, hearing it, you're getting it 2 ways. Multimodal learning is the best. So you're learning 2 ways. So that's how we're going to rewire the brain. Okay. I know it sounds easier said than done. And I promise you'll be doing this sometimes and you'll feel really stupid because you're recalling a situation. I want you to like write it down and call it out. Okay. So like if it's a touchdown that I scored, or maybe I've never hit a hole in one, but let's say I had a hole in one and I'm recalling that, it sounds really weird. Like, am I bragging? Is this pride? It just feels weird. I promise you. But what you're doing is you're recalling the former things and you're calling those former things forward. And you're saying, Lord, thank you. And hey, Raul, that was awesome. And what's happening to you is you're rewiring that process of being thankful. And so you're more likely to be thankful in the day for something little like a coffee that tastes good. And so you're priming that side of it. Now, if you look at the opposite person who wakes up flustered because they didn't get up for their morning routine, they're stressed out, they forgot to make the coffee. So now they get out of the office and they're driving, or out of the house, they're driving fast. They pull over to Casey's, there's a long line, they get to the office and all they're doing is they're seeing negative, and they've wired their whole front part of the morning to see negative. So now their brain's primed to see the negative. Okay. So I'll give you a really quick example and then I'll give you a more serious example. So the quick example is I'm an archery coach. Shout out to Sergeant Bluff State Archery. Let's go, baby. Anyways, I'm an archery coach. So I was working with.
Did you wear that shirt just because you're about to talk about this story?
bruh. Just like Tavian always says,
Dude, no
figures out dad does everything intentional, and he gets
no
mad about
way.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
And like my ring for mom today because it's gratitude. Okay, so back to archery. So I'm an archery coach, and I was helping a young high school female coaching her in archery. So I asked her, she was having some like down moments. I asked her what's wrong, and she's like, well, if I shoot a bad arrow, we call it throwing a bad arrow. If I throw a bad arrow, she doesn't literally throw it, she shot it. If I throw a bad arrow, like I get down. And so I was like how bad? Like a 6. And she says, well, maybe 7 or 8. Okay, so I start working with her, and I'm like, hey, what was awesome about that arrow? Find the gratitude, find the gratitude, find the gratitude. She's like, well, hit the target. And we start working through this. We work through some real life examples. And she started to look at me and kind of like giggle, like a little bit, like laugh. And I was like, because look, if you laugh and giggle when you're doing archery, your body thinks this is super fun. Your body thinks like, hey, I want to do this. It's like going to a candy store. And so Mike, but if you think of a bad arrow and you think, oh, this sucks, why am I doing this? Like we shoot at 7 a.m. So that's already negative. So we got to climb up a lot to get to that spot. So I started teaching how to do it. She starts giggling. We fist bumped. And then that was on Monday. On Saturday, she shot and she PR'd. She had her personal record, her personal best. And so then following Monday, which was this week, so she got, like a big improved score. And so one of the coaches asked her like, hey, what would you say to your teammates? Like what worked? And she just started giggling and she goes, I use positive self-talk, like a question mark. And so that's real time. Like in a week, not even a week, 5 days, she PR'd her score because she made herself laugh, even if she threw or shot a bad arrow. Like think that's the gratitude in the middle of the struggle, right? So archery is pretty intense because like you instantly get feedback. Every single arrow you get feedback. So it's super easy to beat yourself up. So that's a quick example of how fast this works. And I'll talk about a deeper example. This time of the year in Iowa, we had the daylight savings time, so the sun doesn't come up in the morning. So I leave the office. I leave for the office early, and so it's dark. I get home, after 6, sometimes 7, and it's dark. So I literally get no sun. It's literally 10 degrees out, so I can't go outside and run. I'm an outdoor dude, so there's not a lot of stuff going on, right? So I start to double or triple vitamin D. That's me. Don't do that. Don't take that as medical advice. That's just me. So I can keep my brain moving. But sometimes I fall behind, and I have this condition sometimes if I fall behind called SAD. It's seasonal affective disorder. It's like sparked because you can't get outside. It's sparked because you can't get life. You can't get sunlight. And so my vitamin D plummets and I have to catch it. Otherwise I'll be clinically depressed. So when the boys were younger, and sometimes on a Saturday morning or something, they'd try to find me, and I'd be up in the man cave, AKA the family lodge now, because Stacy changed the sign because I got a bunch of girls running in our house. So they come upstairs and be like, hey dad, so what are we gonna do today? And they just start like, no way, dad's up here watching VHS tapes of his old college football, and they'd roast me for it. But low key, like I was sad. So I would go upstairs, cuddle up in a blanket, turn this thing up, and I got old school speakers. It's loud, surround sound, whatever. And I would hear North Dakota State football, and they'd hear my name called. And I know that sounds really prideful or whatever you want to call it, but here's what happens. Like they used to call me the Jewel. I know it's stupid, but Raul the Jewel, whatever. But I would start to think like, bro, you're the Jewel. Like, bro, you did that. Like, and I replay some cool plays and try to find it on an old tape. And before you know it, like I'm working out. Like I'm putting on socks, I'm putting on a hoodie, and I'm running at 30 degrees. And there's this thing that sparks.
Or you got your old helmet on.
Hey, bro. Hey. Come on, bro.
You
That's
sit there in your old
talk.
jersey with your old helmet on, with your old
family talk, bro. That's family talk.
Football gloves.
Yeah, but no, on a serious note, our whole entire family battles depression, clinical depression. And as a kid we were in therapy and all those kind of things because alcoholic dad and just traumatic life. So that stuff catches up to me, and I'm a professional. Like I'm supposed to be an expert at this stuff. And sometimes I catch it and sometimes I don't. And when I don't, like I got a couple of choices, right? I can just cuddle up in bed and we call those the warm fuzzies. Like I'm just going to feel the pain of depression and just lay around. I don't do that very well because then I get angry and I get mad, and I'm not a good dude. So I know to fight. And so my gratitude, how I build it, is I have to relive some good things about me, some good things about the past. As funny and creepy as that looks to my kids, and they pick on me about it. The other thing I do is I watch, Tyler's going to know, I watch Army shows every year.
Black Hawk Down.
Yeah. And the reason is it's the brotherhood. there's something deep inside of me about this. And I don't even know. My buddy Dirk wrote me a letter one time and he's like, there's something special in you where you seek guys to build. And I don't even know where it came from. As a little boy, like I used to this is okay. This is an aside, but I was on probation for fighting, but I never started a fight in my life. I always rescued my buddies who were bullied. And then I would just try to just drag a dude out. And then somebody starts hitting me. And then that was the stupidest thing he's ever tried. Like, so I was on probation for fighting, but I never started a fight. Like, so I have this ability to rescue people and I don't know where it came from, right? It's God given maybe, but I know it's weird, but I watch army shows, not for the killing and the gore and all that junk, but like these dudes who run back into the fight, right? These guys who return to the fire for their buddies, like the brotherhood. And I just love that brotherhood stuff. And so that's another thing, like that's a gratitude for the fight, gratitude for the brothers. That's not a personal thing for me, but those are the two things I do to find gratitude in the storm.
Yep.
And then I know it seems weird, but more movies and more football and more workouts and all of that. And all next thing you know, like somebody calls me and they're down and like, hey, you know, we're struggling with our marriage. Can we come over? And they sit in our living room and Stacey and I will talk and pray with them and help them. I don't do that because like, I think I'm everything or whatever. Like people think that's whatever. I do that because I know the pain of being that low. I've lived it. I've been there and I fight to stay out of there. So I hope you understand like the gratitude pieces. It's not about building yourself up like, dude, I'm Rocky. It's about like, dude, I have to stay in the fight. Now you catch why that Navy SEAL thing is so big to me. Like you are never out of the fight. You are never out of the fight. Never forget that.
Sweet. Couple comments we got here. Rochelle says, name it to tame it, validate. Bridget's got a thing we're going to end with more personally. I mean, for personal examples. And then Adam said, love that. Speaking affirmation over yourself to avoid my depression. I have to do that each morning as well to keep my mental where it needs to be. And Esther said sisterhood, because I think you shouted out brotherhood. So
correct.
Also shout out to sisterhood.
Personhood, sisterhood, cousinhood.
We've never really experienced
Tell Esther. Esther, this is for Esther. Warriorhood.
We've never experienced sisterhood, but to those that have, shout out to you.
Correct.
Bridget, which I agree with, I wrote it down too. Okay, so that's what you do when you get, you feel yourself drifting down that path. But you mentioned, 3 or more self-affirming thoughts or statements at the same time each day. So what do those sound like? What do they look like? What do I say? I'm super cool. I'm super cool. I'm super cool. Or like, what's the, what would be some examples of that or what we would say?
Yeah. So remember, it has to kind of think, and it's going to take some time. And like I said, when you experiment with it, you'll figure out one that works. Right. So I know.
Yeah. And they're going to, just throw out some examples or, they don't have to be specific.
So like, a 5K, the first 5K I ran, like, okay, I can look at that one. We ran a 5K in, the firecracker 7 a.m. down in Branson, 4th of July. And I
don't know if I would consider that my 5K or like a run. That was a shuffle.
Okay. Well, your shuffle on that day, I broke my PR. And we found out later there was a bunch of college kids that ran and they just paced it. And there's just that energy in there. And I ran harder than I ever thought I could just because these young 16-year-olds are finishing in 15 minutes.
I ran the fastest first mile that I've ever ran because
there was so much energy, right?
Fireworks. I was trying to stay with them.
Yeah. I was dying.
I saw the 1 marker water table and I about fainted. I thought I was going to die. Okay, continue. But
it's real life examples.
What do I think about those things? I say those things because we've all heard the, look in the mirror and say, you can do this or, like, is that what we're talking about here? Or are we talking about thinking of successful moments?
Okay. So on a small level, it doesn't work as well, but I'm gonna say it. And it's a word I'm working on, but I'm gonna say it because it's worked so well. You look in the mirror and you say this 3 times. I freaking rock. And you say that 3 times. It makes you laugh and you just feel jacked. It's cool. That works. So something like that, like a motivational punch statement, that would work.
So you said I freaking rock. Mom comes with she typed in I am more than a conqueror. Thank you, Mom, for keeping it biblically sound.
Yes, that's why I said I'm working on it.
No. And then her other one was I am the righteousness of God in Christ.
Yes. Mom always fights on her knees and I want to fight by swinging. So it's just kind of where we're at.
So find statements like that.
Correct. Find a statement that works for you. So like if Mom tried what I just told you, she'd feel bad. So it wouldn't work for her. On some days when I'm in worship mode, those statements work for me. They really do.
Stinking rock.
Yeah, she would do it like that. Okay, so that's kind of like part one, right? If you want to go deeper, you would think of a situation like we talked about the firecracker 5K, right? Where I PR'd, and I would look in the mirror and say it, or I would write it down and be like, I PR'd and blah, blah, blah. And I write that out, right? And then I would actually just like sit and look at that and I read the text out loud. And every time I'd say I use my name, Raul, and you talk about that. And then when you hear it, it does the rewiring because you're hearing positives about you and you're literally bringing up a past scenario. And so you're marrying the gratitude with the past. So it sets your brain to find it. It's like, and we talk about this all the time. Like when Tyler likes this Army green Tundra truck. And every time like I see one, it's a magnet now because Tyler's put that on my forehead.
I just sent it to someone yesterday.
Yeah. Why is that on your forehead? Because you think about it a lot, right? When you think about it a lot, your brain snaps and says, bro, you told me to look for that. Hey, dude, you primed my mind. And it just snaps like you can't miss it. Right. And it's like a car, like somebody says, hey, have you ever seen that kind of car? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Just show me a picture of it. That very same day, I'll see like 7 of them.
Yep.
Okay. So that's a good example of priming your brain. So to Bridget's question, you can do 3 quick ones like I talked about, but deeper. And I want you to work on the deeper ones. The deeper ones are 3 really good examples where you did something amazing and you're happy and you have gratitude for that. And it could actually be like one of those, if you've watched that relationship podcast, or no, maybe it's our story where I think it is a relationship podcast. You can go find it on Renew the Mind podcast on our YouTube channel. When I talk about Fran, Stacey's mom, my mother-in-law, when she rescued me when we had our biggest fight ever, that I use that one a lot because it changed the way I thought of being an in-law. Like I'm a son. That changed everything.
Yep.
So those are the deep ones, the deep gratitude where I did nothing. And then there's other gratitude things where I did a lot. So just experiment with it. You can text us or post, questions, whatever. Don't be afraid. Like, look, I know it's hard to talk about this stuff, but renewing the mind is nothing about mental illness. Renewing the mind is literally the concept is taking you where you're at and growing. And that's how I want you to think about this stuff. Like, don't be like, well, if I say this, I look mentally ill. Like, to be honest with you, mentally ill people are in a hospital because they can't function. The rest of us are just struggling. Like that's just part of the life.
Yep.
You're not mentally ill, you're struggling. And so I want you to focus on that concept.
I like it. Esther says, I am the competition. I like that one.
That's perfect. Correct.
Yep. Mom came up with, I am beautifully and wonderfully made.
Yeah, mama.
Alicia said, it's like in Cool Runnings when he yells in the mirror and builds himself up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What a good movie. We should watch that again.
It works.
Cool Runnings. What a great one.
Yes.
I like it. So basically come up with some statements that apply to you. I'm probably not going to look in the mirror and say I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. That's just not probably going to fit with who I am and my character. I'm probably going to yell more like I am the competition, or I freaking rock, or I am more than a conqueror. So come up with some of those statements. One of the things I say a lot, and it's not really an affirmation, but when I think about it, I've failed a lot of times trying things. And so I want to get this idea of that I'm not a failure, or that I'm not going to fail. Failing means quitting, not just a stumbling. And so that's something that I've been repeating, not necessarily like this 3 times in a row at the same time, but as soon as I kind of feel myself drifting down, I try to grab that thought captive, as scripture says, and come back to, that I'm not a failure, or I won't fail. So come up with some of those things.
Yeah. And on that note, like it can be wired like I won't instead of like I am. You can do it that way too. So one of mine that's wired kind of negative from that I can't or I won't, I always say like I will not be broken. So that's one of my affirmations, but it's wired differently because like I may fail, I may fall down, I may take 2 years to write a book, but I will not be broken. And I have to keep saying that part to me because like that keeps me moving.
I like it.
Okay.
Adam said that's exactly what he was thinking with the Cool Runnings. Whoa.
That's funny. That's a good show.
Alicia said, I'm dope and lit is probably something Tyler would say.
Facts.
I'm dope and I'm lit.
Facts.
No, I just yell, let's go. That's usually my, So, okay.
Yeah. And one more thing, if you can pair one of those that really works like, okay, I'm dope and lit, or like I am the competition. If you can pair that while you're working out, even stronger, because your body's already in fight mode.
Dude, you ain't got to tell me. I'll be screaming down here on this bike.
I promise you.
Just
Yeah.
like like one of those, you know.
I'm giving out some deep secrets.
I've been thinking about this. Like, this is more on the worship side of it, but this would be something about that we could maybe do a future podcast on. So, have you ever been? And for those of you that don't go to church, that you might not understand this, but sometimes in a worship setting, when everyone's singing and you just have one person yell out, you know, like a loud, like a hallelujah or an amen, you know, a genuinely expressing their gratitude and worship to God, or you have someone just not clapping on beat, but just loudly clapping. That noise does something in the atmosphere in the room. And so I've been trying to study this. I just started like 2 days ago, but this idea that noise and sound that's like abrupt breaks, it does something to break the atmosphere and the current thoughts and structure of a worship setting. And you see that when people, so then I started going down this path. You see that when people, you know, like weightlifters, you know, like the big bodybuilders down like at Big Iron Gym with Sean Frankel, right before they do it, they'll be like, whoa, whoa, you know, and like someone slapping their chest, or like that does something. It's like a rush of, I don't know what it is, but emotion. And like, that is more what I would do when you start talking about this. You know, I'm not going to look in the mirror and say, you know, I am the righteousness of God. I am the righteousness of God, you know, like quietly self-affirming, but doing some of those, like, you know, let's goes or screaming, or, you know, I am the competition, or I am more than a conqueror, kind of with some energy behind it. That to me feels more affirming than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. When I do my worship sets in the morning, sometimes it just depends on the day. I'll shout out, like the Bible says, cry out to God. So sometimes it's that crying mode, and other times it's like, yes, Lord, like here I am, send me. And there's an energy there.
Yeah.
But I would tell you, Google vibrations.
I'm a clapper
because you're that language is.
My kids are sleeping.
Yeah, I'm lit. Sorry,
Dude, I'm in trouble. I'm gonna get
because the sounds, right? The sound waves. Like, think about a concussion grenade. It's a sound wave, and it's the vibrations in the sound wave. So there's a normal like decibel level sound, and you kind of get accustomed to it. And then somebody breaks that sound, and it actually pushes the atmosphere. I know it's weird, but it's actually vibration. So study the vibration of sound. That's actually what's happening.
Yolanda commented and said, get the chills and my knees shake in those moments of abrupt shake when feel the Holy Spirit. Esther said quantum physics. Facts. That's above my brain. That's Facts. Terrence talk. Talk to Terrence and Dave.
That's warrior talk.
Quantum physics. I'm out of that.
Yep. That's legit.
Aunt Cal said she just chants Cali, Cali, Cali.
Let's go. I'm going back to Cal. Oh, that's a bad one.
No, wrong one. She's talking about Killer Cali.
Oh, yeah.
Alicia said on the musical side of it with worship, it's breaking the rhythm or the beat so you notice it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
That's awesome.
Any other thoughts? We're right at an hour, so we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
Any other lasting thing?
Last thing, we are having a couples conference February 27th.
Yep.
At Sioux City First Church.
Sioux City First Church, Josh and Melissa Potter. So you can hop over to.
It's gonna be dope and lit.
Sioux. You can hop over to Sioux City First on all social media. Hop over to Josh or Melissa Potter. Also, Dad and you and Mom both shared it, right?
Yes.
So it's just the save the date got released. Just so people know, just a heads up, you're going to be going over the IDK model, working through what that looks like, breaking that down, and then, you know, obviously
teaching couples how to appropriately fight so that they can finish with actually a resolute, like, don't waste the fight. That's what it's about.
So if you've been to a marriage conference before, let someone else know about it, talk to them about it, send them the invite. I feel like we do a marriage conference probably different than a lot of other people have done it. We get down to the nitty gritty, and then we also just give you moments to allow the Holy Spirit to speak into you guys as a couple. So if you can't come with your spouse, you can come individually, but it is for married couples, obviously. So February 27th, Sioux City First. It's just one day. So I think it's 9 to 2.
9 to 2 on a Saturday.
Yep.
Correct.
So we'll kind of keep posting some of that, but just, we're just right at a month out. So make sure you're marking that down in your calendars. Alicia said, or like Moana when she says, Maui, 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 you're so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
Bridget said, on the treadmill, I will, when I am weakest, God is the strongest in my life.
Yes.
Then I list, thank you to God. Thank you for my legs. Thank you for the sun, and continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I promise you, the more you do it, the less awkward it feels because your brain starts to know what you're doing. Right.
Yeah. I think it's to me, once you do it once, you feel like that. Whoa, that. And so then to me, it's just like, man, who's around me? It's not even more awkward for me. It's more awkward for what people are going to think. And so when I do it at my house, it's one thing, but when I'm running at Sertoma and I got my AirPods in, and then I start screaming and then realize this dude is someone's watching this random guy run down this path, just screaming,
Yeah, that would
shout out to Andy Mineo. You can't stop me or something.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Can't stop, won't stop.
I mean, the biggest thing is just figure out what works for you, what works for you,
and jump in and start somewhere and then grow.
Yep. What works for you, what resonates with your personality, what you need to reaffirm. I don't need to tell myself I'm beautiful because that's not something I struggle with. I need to tell myself you will not fail because that's kind of what I struggle with. So figuring out what fits with your personality, what's your struggle, and then kind of how to work through that and work it out.
Facts. All right.
I like it.
That's good.
Sweet. I think that's it for the comments. Dan said, yeah, you can't stop me. I'm telling you, that's my go-to.
Stop me.
Anytime I need it.
Got that beat going now.
Andy Mineo. Sweet. All right. Well, just remember there's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. Tune in next Tuesday. We'll go live again. And as always, we love you.
Every other Tuesday.
Renew your what?
Every other Tuesday.
Yeah. What did I say? Next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Not next Tuesday. The 2 Tuesdays.
Correct.
Perfect. Renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that. Every situation. We love you. Peace out. See you later.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, boy, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.